Hey, thank you for coming to my show. I think you'll hear something today that makes you click that like button, share with your people, and subscribe so you don't miss what's next. Let's stay connected. Tell me what you think in the comments. Thank you for joining us here at Our Unseen Dads, where we highlight and recognize the dads making a difference. And today we've got Brother Dorsey with us, Jeron Dorsey. How you doing today, Brother Jeron?
I'm doing good, brother. How about yourself, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you for coming. All is well. All is well. So, how I like to start my show is, who are you?
So I would say, I'm a child of God, a strong black young man that's trying to make a difference in the lives of not only my family and friends, but the lives of everyone that I come in contact with, And so I've, been in Evanston all my life, born and raised here in the Fifth Ward, and part of who I am is the Fifth Ward. How I was raised in the Fifth Ward and how I was brought up is how I try to continue carrying on my life and my service to the community. So, in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Who was your dad?
My dad was a humble man. He was a businessman, entrepreneur. My dad, was born with a kidney failure disease that he struggled with his entire life. But from the time that he was on this earth, he was a very loving man. Even though him and my mom was separate, he was always someone who, was in my life. And unfortunately, when I was 13 years old, he passed to his health condition. And so, as far as I can remember growing up, my dad was always someone that was there for me and challenged me to be the best that I can be in terms of, life. And I feel like, my dad dying at such an important age for me as a young black man, it led to me making a lot of choices that I don't think that I would have made if my dad was still present.
Yeah. You said you were a product of the Fifth Ward. Can I get your input on the Fifth Ward school that is supposedly coming in 2026? I believe it is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited about that. There has been some back and forths about, is it a good idea or a bad idea? But someone coming from the Fifth Ward who had to walk to school outside of my community, I definitely enjoy the concept. And in terms of how beautiful it's going to look in that neighborhood and how inviting it's going to be to uplift that community, as well as the Fleetwood Jourdain Center that's right in his backyard. I think the opportunities for the Fifth Ward are humongous right now with that new development.
Yeah. What have you learned from your dad?
From my dad, I learned how to, I would say the biggest thing is how to be humble, not feeling like everything that you do have to be recognized or that you have to get kudos for everything you do, but being that humble beast who makes an impact on everybody that you come in contact with. Some things people find out about, some things people don't, but my dad was a person who helped every single person that he came in contact with. And I think he transferred that over to me, all my life growing up. I've been someone that will give my last to somebody just to see them, happy. And I think, a lot of the other lessons, like I mentioned before, that, a young man would have learned from his dad. I feel like our time was cut very short, and, being in a co-parenting situation, I didn't wake up and go to sleep to my dad every single day. And so my goal right now as a father that's the number one priority for me right now. And so I think that's a lesson that I learned from my dad that he didn't necessarily teach me, but that was something that I seen that he wasn't with us every single day, waking up and going to sleep with our moms. And so what lesson I learned is I wanted the opposite of that.
It's interesting you say that. It's the same thing for me, bro. It really strengthened it within me to be that father that was there day in, day out, night in, night out. And it was a lesson that was taught without even being taught. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What message did your father teach you at that young age that you were teaching your children?
I think the biggest thing is just how to have a hard work ethic. No matter what you do, it can be academics, it can be a project you're working on, it can be goals that you've set for yourself. Just work hard at it, no matter what it is, whatever you're doing. Sometimes even when I was doing bad things growing up, I was good at those bad things. You know what I'm saying? And so just being good at whatever it is that you're doing, and always not being afraid to fail. I think sometimes in life we are taught to, like, you know, you got to be perfect, you can't miss a beat and all of that. My dad made it comfortable for me knowing that if I failed, that was still a lesson that I learned from, and so it helped me grow. And so I didn't look at it as a loss. I look at it as a win, even though it probably didn't turn out in my favor because of lessons my dad taught me.
Yeah. What are some of the unique experiences you've encountered as a father?
So some of the unique experience especially nowadays with the social media and the, you know, all of the distractions that, you know, kids get nowadays, that's outside of kind of some that you can follow. It seems like it's everywhere nowadays. And so I think one of the things for me as a father is just understanding that I have to determine the level of exposure that my kids have. So whether that's, you know, the whole tablet thing, the phone things, how much time we spending on that, or whether it's, you know, going on trips or vacations, or just exposing them to things in real life in real time, as opposed to letting the media kind of paint a picture for my kids of what life should look like, or trying to basically compare their life to someone else's life on a computer. And so I am very cognizant of trying to control that narrative, but it is a challenge, you know, at times, because it's almost like whenever you turn your back, there's something else kind of trying to grab at their attention. And when we were growing up, it was like, go outside, ride bikes, play ball at the park. That don't happen no more.
No, I sure don't, boy. And the funny thing is, you almost would get in trouble for not going outside.
Exactly.
And if you went outside, you couldn't come back too early.
Yeah. And so my uncles, they used to tell me, when you come back, you better be dirty. So,
You know what I mean?
let's try to get in the shower and go to bed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What are some of the unique joys as a dad you've experienced too?
Some of the unique joys is just what I mentioned before. Is just kind of be able to see how exciting it is to raise a family in one household, and getting to teach my daughter how she should respect herself as a young woman. My daughter turned 9 today. It's her birthday.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. My son's 4 years old, and so just teaching him through my actions how to treat a woman, by how I treat his sister and how I treat his mother, you know, and just trying to you know, instill those really important lessons that I didn't benefit from as a kid growing up, because I'm with a single mom that's working and trying to take care of the whole family, and I was raised by a bunch of women. And so, you know, just trying to bring that father figure aspect into the picture. It's been a joy to see how my kids, it feel like it's me all over again. You know, it feel like I got a second shot at rewriting my story, and my kids they remind me of me so much, and just changing the different things that I wish I can go back and change, and helping them understand why the decisions they make and the choices they make are so important. I think that gives me joy every day, to just be present in their life and get to see them grow and be happy.
Like you, I was raised by women, my mother, my aunt, my grandmother, my aunts, my grandmother. What did you learn being raised by women as a young man?
Oh yeah, man. I wouldn't trade it for nothing in the world. What I learned is the importance of family sticking together no matter what, thick or thin. And I also learned the importance of faith and believing in something bigger than yourself. And so, I grew up in a Christian family, and it felt like growing up, it was church, probably 6 days a week. We it's just different services every day, it seems like, right?
Yeah.
But one thing about it is my especially now that I grow older, and it's still my grandma, my mom, her sisters, and and things like that, and just to see how over all of these years, through all of the things that done happened, and everyone growing their separate ways, they're as thick as thieves. Like, and that's they are the people who keeps our family together, because I feel like if it wasn't for them, the younger generations with my cousins and different things like that, everybody's off to their own devices and doing their own thing. But it's like the ladies in my family bring that family to me, and that makes me be the person that say, hey, we got to keep this going generation after generation through my kids and their kids, and on and on and on.
Yeah, the women were always the glue.
Absolutely.
Especially in my family, they were always the glue.
Absolutely.
As a Black dad, what would you say is your greatest superpower?
I would say my greatest superpower is understanding, and also prioritizing the needs of my kids, despite of how I might have grew up, or how things were when I was growing up. We used to do it like this, or this how you do it. Y'all not doing it the right. I let my kids explore themselves, because it's a different time right now, and so I'm not trying to live my life through my kids. I want them to live a life that I can help mold and shape and guide them in the right direction. But I think what I've been great at is just hearing them out and understanding what they like to do. Like, everybody got a son, and I want my son to play basketball. Well, my son I tried it. He bought a hoop, bought a ball. At 4 years old, he just ain't with it. But if he get a football, that's what he likes to do. He likes to kick a soccer ball. And so, although I want him to play basketball, I understand that he is his own self, and he, will grow into whatever he decides to like, and I shouldn't be trying to enforce my opinion on what he likes. And so I think one of my superpowers is just understanding my kids on a different level, and being able to support them in whatever they decide that they like to do.
Yeah, that's strong. That's strong. What are some of the challenges have you faced as a Black dad?
The whole challenges is of, witnessing what you see now everywhere on the news, on the TVs, all the racial tension and different things like that. It's hard to, especially now that my daughter's older, she asks a lot of questions. She's very smart, asks a lot of questions. And sometimes it's challenging for me as a Black man to even come up with a good explanation as to what is really happening, because it's a challenge that I face every day when I get up and go outside and try to do good things. I'm still facing those things as well, and people before us, and years of racism. It's a long story to tell in one setting. You understand what I'm saying? And so I think just trying to expose my kids to understand what it is and how it affects the lives of the world, of everyone, but just not trying to overexpose them to it to where it scares them, or they're kind of shutting their wall down to seeing the other side of it, because I believe in all people are all lives matter, and all people are great people. I have a lot of friends from a bunch of different backgrounds, so but I do understand racism very well, and I experience it myself on a day-to-day basis. So that's just a challenge that I see with raising young Black kids and in a school system where, that's not always the number one topic of thing to talk about. And so, my sons and my daughter as well, they benefited from going to Kingsway Prep when they were. My son goes there now, and my daughter's a Royal for life. She went there.
Royal, always a Royal, baby.
Exactly. So having systems like that in place where your kids can get that early understanding of who they are as a Black person, and tying it to their faith as Christians, it's it's just been a tremendous help for me and helping my kids navigate and learn about those things both inside the house and outside the house. It's been helpful.
Mrs. Hadaway's amazing.
Oh, absolutely.
She's amazing. I remember when Jameson went to Kingsway, he was about 2 years old, and we still had training pants on. We tried potty training him that whole summer to get him prepared for school. And so the first week, like, he'd been going with training pants, and around about Wednesday or Thursday, he said, "Daddy, I can't wear training pants anymore." Mrs. Hadaway said, "I'm a big boy now."
Yeah.
What? Come on, let's hurry up and go to school. I gave Mrs. Hadaway 2 seconds. Thank you. We did it in 3 days, and we've been doing it for 3 months. Trying to do it.
Yes. And I think the great thing about it is the kids that go from that institution into another institution, it's very, very evident of the early education start that they had over their counterparts just by being a part of a program like that. And so that being in the 5th Ward is all the better even to me. And so I'm forever going to support Ms. Hadaway and the Roys forever.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, man. I agree wholeheartedly. Now, how do you approach discussions about race with your children, even though they're so young?
Yeah, I think it's, trying to be creative and trying to find, ways that I can bring up that topic without trying to make it so deep. Yeah. And so strategies I've used is just trying to relate it more to things that they like and kind of, so instead of, going back in the history book and trying to talk about Dr. King and all of that good stuff, which is all great, right? But relating it more to their times, or like young people that they see growing up right now that's doing big things as a young African-American male or women or female. For example, Simone Biles and things like that. My daughter really liked gymnastics, and so just trying to use examples of people that she enjoys watching or researching, and then tying it into how people in her generation and my generation benefited a lot more from what our ancestors benefited from in terms of our right to do a bunch of different things, right? And so, but still reminding her in the same token that racism still exists, and this is what it looked like, and these are examples of ways that is kind of woven in there to make it not seem as it is what it is. Has been helpful for me. I just kind of making it relevant to their times is helps them grasp it a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'm assuming with that their understanding is almost through the roof. Like, they can understand completely well what you're saying, and you add some insight to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about the kids is, I think they're a lot smarter than we give them credit for. So a lot of times my kids ask me questions that I might have to go back and tighten my knowledge up on, like, oh, that was a good questions. And so sometimes they challenge me to get better, because the questions that they ask, although, they may think it's a silly question, it really is an interesting question that get me thinking, and then I can go and come back with something, and kind of like we keep the story going and going and going. And it's just a great experience to do it with my kids, so I'm trying to help navigate this world.
Yeah. What role do you believe the Black dad has in the community?
I think the Black dad has a tremendous role in the community. I think, what I will reference it to FAM. So, FAM is a grassroots organization that's been around for almost 60 years, if not even more at this point, right? Mm-hmm. And what you see is the power of the Black dads through that organization. So you have gentlemen who went on this endeavor many, many decades ago, and the fruits of their labor is still right there in the same place, pouring into the community. And so I think that a lot of times, we as Black dads, more modern day Black dads, we get caught up in our silos sometimes, and we, everybody's trying to go and the same direction, so to speak, but we're not using each other as a resource to get there. And so I think that with fam, what you're seeing is gentlemen got together, built a friendship, and then there's many other older guys that's still in the organization to this day, that they've been friends for 30, 40, or 50 years. And the impact that they have had on the Evanston community is a true example of how important the Black dad is in the community. And so I think it's, you know, we need to do more of that now in my generation and the more generations coming up. And we need to kind of tighten back up on that, because we all do things separately and kind of create this weird competition. And I think the impact for our community is going to be done when we join our minds together and do this thing together.
Yeah. Gene Bell and Chief Logan, I mean, these brothers were so forward thinking. I mean, and you know, the wild thing is my father-in-law he's been in there 50 years, and I was 51. But I remember him telling me the story that, you know, because he was a sergeant in the police force.
Yep.
Chief tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you like basketball, don't you, Fools?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I tell you what, why don't you meet me at Fleetwood Jourdain at about 5 o'clock on Monday?" He did, and he was hooked, never left, right? And ironically, he did the exact same thing to me. But all he simply told me was, "I want you to meet me at Fleetwood at 5 o'clock on Monday."
You've been there for 18 years.
To your point, man, it is a beautiful thing. I get Black kids, I get white kids, I get Asian kids, I get kids of all spectrum. And, you know, once they're there, they are your children.
Yes. And so for me, growing up and playing fam and going through fam and doing, you know, the Rick Marshes, the Bob Reeses, and all these guys, you know, since I was a baby growing up, and just to see them still there doing that right now, that's what motivates me to get up and go to Evanston and make an impact every single day, because these guys have paved the way. They wrote the book for Black men to be able to dominate and impact our community. We just need young brothers like myself to pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, like you say, the road has been laid, you know, and you get straight from it, you know.
Absolutely.
What does liberation look like for black dads? Let me ask it a different way. What will it take for Black dads to be seen? Because in a sense, if you ask people, we don't exist, right? But no one really asks us. So what will it take for liberation for Black dads?
I think it's going to take group initiative, you know what I'm saying? Group cooperation. You know, I think it's going to take us getting on one accord with one another. You know, it's always, you know, I think too often, you know, we kind of look at other people for that recognition or to label us as present Black dads. But also we got to be able to tell our own narrative as well. And we got to show that we collaborate with one another. We, you know, are joint with one another on a, you know, whatever the mission may be, right? So I think if we start to do that more amongst each other, the story gonna tell itself, because as we know, when Black men get together, great things come from it, right? And so I think what it's going to take is us kind of working amongst each other, doing things like this, your platform right now, highlighting Black dads, letting Black dads' voice be heard. I think this is a tremendous step towards that exactly. And I just think that other brothers just gotta come along with it, and let's all get together and make it happen for ourselves, and the rest will come later.
Yeah. I have a few more questions for you, bro. How conscious are you of being that role model for your son and daughter, that is the man your son, that you are the man your son should want to be, and on the other end, you are the husband that your daughter is looking for and looking towards as you treat their mother?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for my son, it's just, you know, trying to instill in my son that, my goal for him is to be way better than me, and, I think a lot of the lessons that I learned growing up was hard lessons due to me making bad choices and choosing not to listen to people like me who trying to tell him the right way to go. And I had people, but not that many black men. I had black women trying to tell me the right thing, but I'm thinking that would have been better coming from a black man who experienced some of the things that I've experienced growing up. But I think for my son is just being cognizant of when he's around at all times. Whenever he's in my presence, my example is being set for him because he watches my every move. From when I wash my face to when I brush my hair, anything I do, he wants to implement. And so that leads me to believe that everything that I do has to have him in mind as the reason that I do that. And so keeping that mindset in my head, even sometimes when I'm, may gonna slip up and say something that I shouldn't say or something like that, is just kind of being cognizant that he's always listening and he's trying to look up to me as his role model. And the last thing I want to do is set a bad example for him. As far as my daughter is just, I want my daughter to understand how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Nowadays, especially nowadays, it's just the disrespect from young men to women and vice versa has gotten way out of hand, right? And so if I leave it to the media and the TikToks and all of that to expose my daughter to what men are supposed to be, I probably won't come up with a good son-in-law, right? And so, just showing my daughter that I'm her example of what a man should look like. And so the way that I talk to her, the way that I treat her, the way that I talk to her mom, the way that I treat her mom, is ultimately trying to set the standards for her down in her life when she starts dating and things like that, to say, hey, that's not how you talk to me, or that's not how you treat me, or I don't got to take this, or, the different things like that. Just trying to have her understand. Vice versa, if I was doing the opposite, what she would think is that it was okay for a man to treat a woman like that. And so always keeping that in mind as well is kind of helping me navigate and making sure that I'm being an appropriate role model for her.
And what role does your upbringing play in how you're raising your children?
I think my upbringing makes me want to provide opportunities and exposure to my children that I never got exposed to. And so I think a lot of the, hard times and the challenges that, we experienced growing up, I make it intentional for my kids to hear stories and learn and know and appreciate those stories, but also not necessarily needing them to live through that in order to understand the lesson behind it, And so I think that my childhood growing up, it was a lot of, raised by women, single mom, dad died when I was young, running the streets, making a bunch of bad choices. And so that's not necessarily what I want for my kids, but I do want them to understand and appreciate my story as well, because this thing can keep getting better by generation after generation after generation. But if we don't tell the past, we don't have nothing for the future generations to reference back to kind of measure up how the family has went to a whole nother level.
Now, let me ask you a quick personal question. What made you change the decisions you were making?
I think one thing that made me change the decisions ultimately was, just kind of got tired of making the wrong decisions and kind of always having to look over my shoulder and wondering if someone's trying to hurt me or if the police is going to be looking for me or different things like that. And then, just losing a lot of friends to gun violence and, people that I grew up with in Evanston that no longer here with me. My best friend was killed when I was, 20 years old. And so all of those different experiences, coupled with the fact that, not long after I started to get my life on track, my daughter was very, very close to being born. And so ultimately that's what kind of turned my light switch on, like, hey, this is not about you no more. This is, you got somebody looking up to you. And so the last 9 years of my life have been, and that's when I started working at Fleetwood. Never had a job in my life prior to Fleetwood, did all the wrong things in the streets. But when I had an opportunity to change my life and the community was open to providing me opportunity, my daughter was being born, those things coupled, I took advantage of that in the last 10 years of my career with the city of Evanston, and also been able to directly impact my community as kind of went through the roof since then.
Yeah. Brother, you've done some beautiful things, man. I've been watching, and that sweatshirt you have on, now, is that CARE, the program that just started here in Evanston?
Yep. So CARE is a alternative to police response program. And so, what we do is provide that follow-up that sometimes what you find out is that when someone calls 911, police is not always necessary. And, there's more important things that they can be handling in terms of actual crimes. And so we have a team that's dedicated to responding to those 911 calls to provide crisis support. So, we directly on the police radios, when dispatch calls us out, we go to the call. Same thing as a first responder, and we provide whatever services that person in that crisis situation may need. So it's a game changer for our community. Evanston is the first community in Illinois to launch a program similar to this. Chicago has a program similar. However, those are, more clinical clinicians that's kind of working on their mobile teams. And then Skokie has a co-response program where you have an officer and a social worker working together. What we have is individuals with lived experiences who has social service backgrounds, but the primary focus of our program is lived experiences, which allows us to go out and build those relationships with these individuals who some of them we run into several times a day, to let them know that we're here for them. We're here to help. And we've seen so many great success stories based off this program since it's launched about 3 months ago.
Yeah, because I remember sitting in the meeting when they were introducing themselves, and then I see them a week later at the downtown concert, and I was like, "Oh, that's what's up."
Yeah, we try to get everywhere because I think the more people know about it, a lot of times right now people may see something that don't look quite right, and they don't call 911 because one, you don't want nobody to get hurt for something that may not have been what it was, and we know that happens, right? But two, it's just that people are not, they feel like they're inconveniencing the police department if they calling them for things that may not seem like an emergency. Well, now you have an option to still call that 911 and get a different response, and we got all the time in the world to spend with that person.
Yeah, no doubt. And I only mentioned it because when I asked you about, how important Black dads are to the community, I wanted you to sort of sneak that in because I know you're a part of it. So I also wanted to give you an opportunity to share it.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity eventually.
Yeah, the program is dope, man. It's dope. And
yeah, man. And it's growing. We're still learning. I'm happy to be leading the program as someone that's from the community, that understands the community, has a lot of community ties and relationships. And so just getting the individuals on my team more acclimated with the city of Evanston and the community. One of my responders, Jordan Barnett, we actually grew up been friends since we was 5 years old and graduated ETHS together in the whole 9 yards. And so it's just amazing to get him back he was a teacher in Chicago public schools prior to this. Just amazing to get him back to the community to be a part of the program. And it's just been a huge success, and the community has received it very, very well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the things you guys are going to do, man. I love the fact that, like you said, you have social workers so they can arrive on the scene and quickly diagnose if a police actually needs to be there, or if we can just handle this right quick,
Right.
It's really nice, man.
Correct.
Jeron Dorsey, man, this has been great talking to you for this little bit of time. I enjoyed it,
Thank you,
man.
brother. Thank you. I truly appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for your time, man.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. Let's stay in touch. Let's see what we can do together. As I talked about, that collaboration is going to be key for us to, show how powerful we are as Black dads. And I'm all up for
Thanks
the
for
cause,
watching.
bro.
I hope you enjoyed the show. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, let's stay connected.